Welcome back to Alaskan Homemaker. I'm Mary. Today we're going to make a sourdough pizza crust that's more like a regular crust, not a super thin crust. So we're going to use Lisa from Farmhouse on Boone's recipe for the sourdough crust. And she discovered that you can make bread, sourdough bread and boules and loaves of bread and pizza crust, and you can just make it ahead in the week when you've got time, and then throughout the week as you have time you can bake it off. You don't have to like bake it the next day or anything like that. That's really awesome, an awesome technique. I knew that when you put it in the refrigerator it slows down fermentation, but I didn't realize that you can just, you know, make it the dough when you have time, and then throughout the week you can cook the dough. You don't have to just make it the exact next day or the next couple days. So that's a really good tip for sourdough people who like to bake sourdough breads. So we're going to get started. You guys, if you've been following me a while, you know that I like to maintain a very small starter. That way I have less waste, and also my dough, I can feed it every day and it will be not as sour for my sweet baked goods and stuff, because I don't like them to have a real sour taste. So I've got a little bit of starter, and we need a half a cup of starter for the recipe that we're using today. And this might not be exactly enough. So I'm just going to put it into this half a cup measuring cup. And as long as you have a little tiny bit of sourdough in here, you don't even need much at all. This is all I've got. And I'm just going to feed this my main starter. I always feed it a tablespoon of white flour, and then I mill 5 whole grains and store them in the freezer. And so here's my whole grain flour. Just 1 tablespoon of that. And then I don't measure like on a scale or anything when I'm feeding my sourdough. I just put the flour in a couple tablespoons and then just add water till it looks good. And then give it a mix. And then just make it how thick you want it. And then I like to put mine in a clean jar. So my main starter is fed. Okay, and I need a half a cup of starter for this recipe, and I don't quite have enough. I've got this much. So I am just going to take my flour, and I'm just going to put a little flour in here and some more water. And I'm not measuring that either. I'm just doing whatever looks good to me to get to my half a cup of starter that I need for this recipe. Okay, I'm going to use that for my clean bowl later. Okay, so I've got this filled up the rest of the way with some extra flour and water to make up for that starter that I didn't have. And I'm just going to mix that really good. Okay, so there's the half a cup of starter that the recipe called for, and we need 1.5 cups of water. I use filtered water when I feed my sourdough, and I'm using some filtered water for this right here too. So there's the 1.5 cups of water and 2 teaspoons of salt. I'm using Redmond's real salt. And we're going to use 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Okay, I'm gonna clean up my sourdough mess. Okay, and I'm gonna stir that up. And we need 4 cups of flour. So I've got my big bucket of flour. And here's my 2-cup measuring cup. And we need 4 cups of flour. We're going to give this a mix. All right, now we're going to use our pan to give this a good mix. Okay, and now we're going to knead this really well. Pizza's always a nice thing to have. Everybody loves pizza. I really loved learning that you can put your sourdough things on hold in the fridge for up to a week. That is so nice. Then when you want to gift a loafer to somebody, or you want to wait for a rainy day to cook some sourdough, then you can. This crust is really delicious. This makes about 2 pizzas for us. Okay, while you're kneading the dough, it's very, very sticky, and then it becomes not as sticky. I mean, it's still sticky, but not as bad as it was at first. And it feels like a really good dough. Okay, so we're gonna get some olive oil into this clean bowl. And I'm just going to swish that around. And then I'm going to put the smooth side down and roll it around and then flip it over so it has a nice coating of olive oil on it. And then we're going to let this sit out and raise up a little bit before we stick it in the fridge. I'm going to put the silicone lid on it and just let it sit on the counter. Okay, I'll see you on the next step. Our sourdough pizza crust has been sitting on the counter for 5.5 hours. And so I'm gonna stick it in the fridge now until I'm ready to make the sourdough pizza. We're ready to make our sourdough pizza crust. So I always try to have some cooked Italian sausage in portions that will go on the pizzas good. And I portion out the pepperoni too, so I can just pull out a baggie. And I've got some shredded mozzarella and shredded cheddar that I froze too. If you shred your cheese, it freezes nicely. So I've got all those laid out since we're gonna make our pizza. It is 64 degrees, so it's a great day to turn the oven on and get our pizzas baked. So we're going to pull our sourdough pizza crust out of the refrigerator so that can warm up, because it'll take a little while for our oven to get up to temp. We've got our pizza stone and we're going to get that into the oven, and we're going to get the oven on 500 degrees, and it'll probably take about 15 to 20 minutes or so for that to heat up our oven. And we'll just leave our dough on the counter and we'll start making our no-cook pizza sauce. We can get that going. I've got a can of tomato sauce. This is 15 ounces. and we're gonna get that into our bowl. I love this no-cook pizza sauce because you don't have to cook it. You can just add your spices and herbs. And it's super easy. And you can do any combo that you like, any spices that you like. For my no-cook pizza sauce, I like to put 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of dried basil, and 1 teaspoon of dried oregano. This is the sauce I always use for my pizzas. It's just easy and it tastes delicious. Okay, now we're just gonna let our oven come up to temp and our dough warm up a bit from being in the refrigerator, and I'll see you in a few minutes. Our oven just came up to temp. It's at 500 degrees, and I'm going to make some garlic butter to brush on the crust when it comes out of the oven. So I've got 3 tablespoons of melted butter in this little coffee cup, and we're gonna get some garlic. This is my garlic puree, my homegrown garlic. So I'm gonna get a little sliver of that, and then I'm gonna peel plastic wrap off and drop that down in there. And I'm going to put a little bit of salt in there because I have unsalted butter. So I'm going to put a little bit of salt in here. We're going to stir this around. And this is going to melt. Okay, we'll let that melt the rest of the way. And I've got some oregano that I just got fresh from my garden. Got a few sprigs of that. It smells wonderful. I'm going to put this on fresh when the pizza comes out of the oven. This bowl was really cold, so I set it on top of the stove and took the lid off. And it feels like it's warming up a little more. We made our sourdough pizza crust on Thursday, and today is Saturday. Okay, now we're going to chop these herbs up. Okay, and that looks good. And we'll get this back in the bowl. I left a little stem in there. It smells so good. I wish you guys could smell it. I've got some parchment paper here. And we're making 2 pizzas, so I'm just going to go ahead and get both of them ready. Okay, and we're going to divide this dough in half. If you make 2 fists and you go like this, then you can stretch out your dough. And you can even hold it by the edge and let gravity work on it. Okay, now we'll put this on here and see how it's doing. And you want kind of a border around the edge too. So I leave my border a little bit thicker. Okay, and now we're gonna get some toppings on here. With the sourdough crust, if you don't put it too close to the edge, then it'll puff up better. When you get it really close to the edge, then this crust part won't puff up as well. So you can just make sure you leave a good border so that your crust edges puff up really good. I will leave the link for this crust recipe in the description box below. Okay, there we go. The cheese is still a little bit frozen, but it's melted enough to get it onto the pizza. Okay, there's that. Now for some pepperoni. And I'm gonna put half of this Italian sausage. It's really handy to have some cooked meat. Sometimes I do barbecue chicken pizzas also. And when you have the cooked chicken in the freezer and just pull it out and put some barbecue sauce with it and put that for a topping, it's really good. And it makes your pizza really fast when the toppings are already in the freezer and ready to go. You can just thaw them out. And now we're going to put our second cheese. The first one was mozzarella, and this is cheddar. And you can put anything you like on your pizzas, and any kind of cheese. Okay, there we go. I got this pan off of Amazon. It's flat, and then it has one part that's has a little handle kind of that you can hold on to. And this makes a great kind of pizza peel. So we're gonna get our pizza into the oven. So the pizza stone is in there, and we're just gonna slide this underneath here. And now we're just going to get this and slide this whole parchment paper right onto our pizza stone. I'm going to use this as a pizza peel. Okay, I'm going to just make sure that's completely on the stone, and then I'm going to close that up quickly, and then we're going to set the timer for 13 minutes. And we're going to get our next pizza ready. So this is going to be the same thing. So just use your fists, or if you aren't comfortable doing that, you can also just use a rolling pin to roll these out. Okay, I'm going to roll it down, stretch it out a bit. Okay, that's looking good. All right, we'll get this loaded up on our baking sheet, and I'll bring you back when the pizza's ready. Our timer just went off, and I'm going to get this cookie sheet, and I'm just gonna get that parchment paper and be really careful so you don't burn yourself, and then just slide that pizza onto your cookie sheet, and then we'll load our next one in. and set our timer for 13 minutes. And 13 minutes was perfect for our pizza. So now we're going to get the garlic butter on the crust. This makes the crust extra delicious. If you don't do sourdough, you can just make a pizza crust and do the same thing. And we're going to sprinkle some of our fresh oregano on top of our pizza. And there's our delicious pizza. And look how nicely that edge rose up. Okay, and now we're going to cut it. Oh, that garlic butter on the crust is like the icing on the cake. It's so good. All right. Let's get this delicious pizza onto our plate. When it's not so hot, you can pick it up, but it's extremely hot, so I'm not going to pick it up. I'm just going to use a fork. Maybe I better set it down so I can cut this bottom crust. You should take a look at the bottom too. It's browned up. Okay, here we go. Let's give it a try. That is so good. It's really delicious. Fresh pizza from your own oven. It's fantastic. Now let's give the crust a try. That is so good with that garlic butter. The edge is like breadsticks with that garlic butter on there. I hope y'all enjoyed this recipe. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a blessed day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.